Hello, my name is Eric Strand, and I'm a magnet student here in the Honors Biology class. For the cell model project, I had to make a plant cell. Here is a picture of how my model ended up. Now, let's dig deeper into the model and take a closer look at the parts that make it up. The first part we will discuss will be the cell wall. Now, the cell wall is represented by the outside of the shoebox in my model. In a real cell, the purpose of the cell wall is to provide protection and support for the cell. They are only present in plant cells, so you won't find them in an animal cell. The next organelle is the cell membrane. Now, this organelle is present in every cell, no matter what type it is, whether it's plant or animal, or even if it's a prokaryotic cell, you will find a cell membrane. The purpose of the cell membrane is much like the cell wall, in that it provides support and protection for the cell. In addition, the cell membrane regulates what materials will enter and leave the cell. The cell membrane is a very important part to every cell. The next part of the cell is called the cytoplasm, and it basically refers to everything within the cell that is not part of one of the organelles. Basically, the purpose of the cytoplasm is to help move materials around within the cell. Next, we'll move on to the nucleus. Now, the nucleus is often considered to be the most important organelle within the cell for several reasons. The nucleus has several purposes. First of all, it contains the DNA for the cell. However, more importantly, it also controls all the actions within the cell. There is another organelle that is actually within the nucleus, and it is called the nucleolus. Now, the purpose of the nucleolus is to make ribosomes for the cell. We'll talk about ribosomes later, but they are very crucial to the cell, and therefore the nucleolus is as well. The next organelle on the model is actually one organelle that is split into two separate parts. The organelle is called the endoplasmic reticulum. Now, first we'll talk about the smooth ER, which stands for the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The smooth ER is, as the name would imply, smooth, and the purpose of it is to make lipids for the cell. The other type of endoplasmic reticulum is called the rough ER. Now, the rough ER is studded with ribosomes along its surface, and the purpose of it is to make proteins for the cell. Speaking of ribosomes, there are also many ribosomes that are laying around loose in the cytoplasm of the cell, as you can see pictured here. The purpose of ribosomes is to help assist in the making of proteins for the cell, and there are many of them in the cytoplasm. However, they are very small, and they are often just represented as a little dot on drawings or diagrams of a cell. The next organelle is also somewhat unique to plant cells, and that organelle would be the large central vacuole. Now, both plant and animal cells have vacuoles, but plant cells are unique in that they have only one large vacuole in the center of the cell. The purpose of a vacuole is to store different materials for the cell until they're ready to be used somewhere else within the cell or outside of the cell to carry out another purpose. It's basically like a large warehouse within the cell. Now we're down to our last three organelles. The first one we'll talk about is the Golgi body or a Golgi apparatus. The purpose of the Golgi body is that it takes different materials for the cell from the vacuole, and it packages them in vesicles that can be transported to another place within or outside of the cell, to wherever that material will be needed. It can be referred to as kind of like the food packaging plant within the cell. Now, earlier we said that the nucleus is often considered to be the most important organelle within the cell. This next organelle is very often considered to be the second, and that would be the mitochondria. Now, what the mitochondria does is takes food that the cell takes in and converts it to energy that can be used by the cell to carry out any function that it needs. In other words, the mitochondria provides all the energy necessary for the cell to function. So without it, there would be no energy for the cell, and therefore it would not be alive. Our final organelle is another that is unique to plant cells, and that would be the chloroplast. The purpose of a chloroplast is to be involved in photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process of a plant converting the sun's energy into food that can be used by the cell to make energy. The chloroplast is the organelle that does this process. It contains molecules called chlorophyll, which will take in the sun's energy, and they have a green pigment. So oftentimes the chloroplast will be a green color until the fall time when the chlorophyll breaks down and it will become red or green or yellow. And this results in the changing of colors of leaves and plants in the fall. Now we have learned about almost all of the organelles that are present within the plant cell. I hope this video has been very informative. Thank you for watching.